So I'll show you one more trick in Grasshopper. So this is the sweep to rail system. So if I just type in sweep to rail, it'll give me kind of another series of possibilities in defining, a seating element or some other element. So all I'm going to do is I've already plugged in this rail 2, which is this guy right here. You see in green, and then I have this guy, my first rail. I'll just plug that into rail 1, rail 2, grab the same section, which is the seating section. And you can see it just kind of even gives me even more possibilities. And at any time, if you think you need more control, you can always rebuild these. Just make sure you rebuild both of them at the same time. Otherwise, it'll get a little confused, or there's the chance that it could get confused. So you want them to have the same amount of control points. So if you want more control. Now, buyer beware on this, because once you add more points, it just means that this thing will tend to has a chance to get kind of angry and kind of weirdly crumpled, you might say, at weird points, kind of pinchy. So less control points is usually the better way to go. So, but it all depends. I mean, it's whatever you're kind of looking to do. All right, well, this is pretty close to what I want, but I think I'm going to lower this seat a bit. Raise it. So that when I make the pillow, kind of looks like looks like I might need to I think I'll just forgo this bit, and we will so we need that part, and let's say we need this bit. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I want this to be in a specific layer. I'm going to call that the pillow. And then I want this thing to be my skin. So I'm going to just, and this part is important. You want basically each layer to be kind of how you see the materiality of the piece. So then we'll call this one the fins. And we'll then bake each one into the right one. So this is the fins. This one's this one is the skin. And then we'll call this one the pillow. All right, now let's shut down Grasshopper. Oh, maybe I should cover one thing. You do, obviously you want to save. What I tend to do is whatever I'm going to call the Rhino file, I'll call the Grasshopper file. So this is, I don't know, furniture experiment. Then I would also call this one the same thing. And the reason for that is that then you'll know what the pairing is between, which which Rhino file goes with what Grasshopper file. And so all of the kind of baked geometry that you're using to the targeted geometry is there. So if you need to make a change later, you can do that. Okay, so that's that. So let's see, what am I going to do with this? I think the one thing that I'm kind of seeing right off the bat is that I'm going to have this geometry, this skin geometry, and that kind of running right on top of one another. So that's kind of maybe not ideal. So I'm going to tweak this file a little bit. I'm going to delete the fins. And let's see where those were built. So basically it's this section. I'm going to offset that. Like, what do you think that thickness? The thickness of this might be like, say, 1/8 of an inch. Maybe it's metal. So I'm going to offset this curve set, whatever I think that distance. You can see that it created an offset that's going out. Basically, it has a default of 1. I'm going to go ahead and put 1/8, and in fact, I will have this go in the negative. Negative direction, so I can put in here negative 1/8. And then that will feed all the surfaces. And then now I can bake this to fins. Okay. And then to give this, so I'll save that. And I don't know, maybe my whole idea, I actually need more fins to give it structure, give it something cool. I'll make 30. Every time you up this, you'll see that it takes a little bit longer for this thing to adjust, because you're getting it more and more to think about. But as long as you control that, it should be all right. And you're waiting for 2 minutes for geometry that would take you 2 hours to do, so it's worth it. All right, so now we have that. We have this. I think I'm just going to explode it. Or I'm getting to do way too many design decisions, but I don't know. I think the cool factor would be that it's, get rid of this guy. Okay, now I'm going to just go ahead and turn on the context that we imported earlier. And now we can go to the next step. All right, so now we're going to export this thing. So things we need to think about, if there is landed directly onto whatever we're modeling, then what we're doing is fine, where we've got it. If it's a, say, your coffee shop, and that's often the hinter when you imported it, you have to decide whether you want to grab basically everything and move it into place, or go through the hassle of importing it and then moving it once you get into Revit. So it's just a question of, do you keep it where it's located or you move it? But do keep in mind, if you do move it, just move it with all the curves that you use in Grasshopper, you targeted to, so that if you need to make a change in Grasshopper, everything's kind of gone, moved with it. So, all right, let's grab it. Let's select the objects. I'm going to export. Oh, one thing to note, you will get these colors going in, but normally how I work, I try to choose colors that are close to the correct ones I'm going to use in the way I'm thinking about it. So not that I want everything to be orange, I don't. So we actually want this to be kind of more, I'm going to think this is like plywood. So I'm just going to pick something that's a little bit closer to wood. Like, well, I keep on having everything selected. The pillow will be orange. Let's go with that. Something like that. The skin will be kind of more of a metal, something like that. And there you go. All right, cool. So now let's bring it in so it looks a little bit better. We're going to select the objects on those layers. We're going to export selected. So it's important that you've set up these layers because again, you will control materiality through those layers. If you had everything on one layer, then everything's going to be the exact same material. You're going to have no control over that. And that goes for when you bring it into Twinmotion as well. So let's go through it. Okay. Furniture experiment sounds good. Replace it, sure. Solids, okay. All right, Revit. Okay, now we're going to go do the same thing. Process, model in place. Sure. All right, since this is a piece of furniture, I'm going to go pick furniture. Again, you could use generic models. Realize that if you you want to pick the type that you're going to use. So if it's a wall system that you're creating, and you might want to use things that hang on the wall, like a light fixture or I don't know, a counter. I don't know what else would hang on the wall. I'm sure there's tons of things that hang on the wall. A TV. Then you want to select wall because it's going to take on those attributes. It's going to allow it to be hung on. If you have a ceiling plane that you've got something really cool you've designed in Rhino, pick ceilings because then you can add lights to it that hang on ceilings or anything else that hangs on the ceiling. So anyway, that's important. I'm going to pick furniture because this is a piece of furniture. Call it something. And then I'm going to do the same thing, little link here. And yes, level 1's fine. Take it a bit. It's not a huge model, but it has a lot going on. Time to take a sip of coffee. And then it comes in. All right, so this looks pretty good. Let's finish it. All right, so there's a few things that don't look quite right. Let's look at how we can kind of make it look a little bit better. I'm surprised that it's getting that kind of residue of the other, but I don't know if there's much I'm going to do about that. I might in the future, instead of offsetting those fins for 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/4 inch would have been better. But anyway, let's get into how to create better visualizations for this. So I'm going to type in VB, and so I can bring up visibility graphics. I'm going to go to object styles. I'm going to go to imported object, and you'll see right here we have fins. One thing that I don't think you guys did, or maybe you didn't see me do, is I added a 0 here. What that's going to tell me is that when I get into Revit, it's going to pack them all together. It looks like I got a default layer 2, which I don't really need, and I got a 0 layer. But if I was to do like several things brought into this model, maybe the next set would be a 1 fins, blah, 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 blah. And then something else I would go 2, and I would have the layers have a 2 in front of them. And that just will group them together so I can kind of go and find them at a later date. It used to be that it would have an import name, like if this was the experimental furniture, it'd have experimental furniture and expand from that. I'm not sure why they changed that, but they did. All right, so here I can assign it materials. So the skin can actually be assigned aluminum. What it has brought in is just the color reference. So that's the, if we got to the whole thing, you'd see the RGB value that I gave it. So that's why it looks like it's close, but it's not. So I'll just assign it aluminum, that's fine. Apply that, and then the pillow, maybe I want a fabric. Great fabric. So again, this is a case where probably would be better off to go ahead and use, I should go to the kind of cool. Don't need that. Don't need cut. Where do I change the color? Interesting. It doesn't have a change of color. All right, we're going to go to this page, see if that does it. Nothing. Okay. Fabric. Huh. It doesn't really matter in this case. I don't care what color it is. So we'll use that, say okay, and then fins, there'll be a plywood. Okay. Now the last thing you want to do is, you can see, oh, can't see, it had some like weird outlines around it, weird colors. That's because of this. So the last thing you might do is change this to black, and then all the colors will be correct. All right, nothing changed. Well, actually the black did, but the others didn't. That's interesting. Let's try one more thing. I found that sometimes you need to, once you make a material change, you need to go to the manage links. So I'm under manage and then manage links. And I'm going to go CAD format. I'm just going to reload this. For whatever reason, this another sip of coffee. This process should have worked, but maybe I'm not in shaded. There you go. That may have been the problem in the first place. All right, so shaded, now I see everything's come in great. Wonderful. All right, let's see what happens when we go to Twinmotion. Never tried that before. Grenade. All right, everything came in just fine. Just use the eyedropper to add some different fabric or different materiality. So here, let's see, this is the fabric. So I'm just gonna grab, like that one. That's great. Let's see, use T, grab that. This little brushed aluminum. Actually, maybe that's already been assigned. Yeah, looks like I already did that. And then let's flip this around. And let's grab so it looks like we have a wood. Let's find something else. Looks like floorboards. Floorboards. Surely there's something that is not. Oof. Maybe the one case where we really need to grab something that is not, we need to add a different type of material. All right, but we got it in. It looks great. Let's go ahead and Looks like we need some lights. Maybe that's the next thing.